All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Dead Draw Gaming Podcast. As always, I am your host, Etchy, and joining me are some players that are pretty good at the Pokemon trading card game. First up, we have Louisville finalist Michael Davidson, who I believe is heading off to Gdansk in like one day, right?
Yeah, we leave tomorrow.
When are you leaving tomorrow?
Me and Justin's flight is at like 2 to Charlotte, and then we
Okay.
connect Charlotte to Munich, and then Munich to Gdansk.
Dang, we're recording this basically as late as possible. Then it's perfect. Next up, we have Nick Moffitt. Nick, how are you doing? I believe you're not going to Gdansk, right?
I am not. No. Doing all right.
Good
Could
to
be better,
hear.
could be worse.
And lastly, we're joined by Caleb, who, again, also going to Gdansk tomorrow. Caleb, are you feeling ready? Do you have a deck prepared?
Wow, thanks for the question. I have no clue what I'm gonna play because everything I play just feels terrible.
I think that's a good summary of the
I
format.
mean,
Everything feels
I'm
bad.
excited to go. I'm excited to go.
Have you been before? None of you have been.
No.
Have you like been to Europe outside of EUIC before?
Yeah.
For Pokemon,
I
I've
have
been to
plenty of
EUIC in
times.
Germany.
Sure. Well, very exciting. With Gdansk this weekend, we're primarily going to be focusing our discussion on that. I don't think the guys here have tested too much Surging Sparks stuff, given that tournaments all the way up through LAIC are in the Stellar Crown format. It's not till Sacramento, I believe, is the first tournament in Surging Sparks. So, yeah, I assume by the time we do our next podcast, it'll be the week of LAIC. Whoever we have on will probably have some Surging Sparks thoughts, but I think that one will also still be pretty Stellar Crown oriented. So yeah, we'll be talking about the meta in various decks. But before we kind of get into that, we have unwittingly started a new tradition on this podcast of somebody calling a deck bad and then it does well at the next tournament. We had it was like a few episodes ago. Benny said that Roll's Lugia list was not good, and then Roll immediately top cut again with it. Then everyone was calling Raging Bolt overrated, and then it won the next regional. And then I think we come back now to Michael, and I think others too, saying that Dragon Ball is fraudulent, and then it gets second place at Lille a couple days later. So congratulations. I think our podcast is cursed, and I think Dragon Ball's probably a good place to start. So Michael, why were you wrong?
Well, I don't think I really was wrong. I didn't. I don't think like the deck is good still, and also like the build that did well is not like the traditional
Right.
Bolt build.
Yeah.
It was like the Pidgeot deck. And I think like, well, I don't think that deck's very good either, but I guess it was like better placed for that meta. So I don't think it's like that surprising, especially if people are like actively not respecting Dragapult, but I still don't think the deck is like great. And I don't think the Pidgeot deck is worth playing. I do think the Dusknoir build actually has a little bit more merit moving forward.
Can you describe what you mean when you say respect Dragapult? Like, how would people respect Dragapult?
I don't really know. I mean, I guess just like be more prepared for the matchup in general, like what they're testing. Some Zards are playing like Max Belt, but that's not like super relevant. I guess maybe like more tombs in decks in general, but I mean there's not a ton to that you can like actively tech to respect for Dragapult, but just like knowing how to play against the matchup like a little bit better is like probably something people would have done when the deck like they expected it to be more popular.
Sure. Yeah, I think we did see more Spiritomb in general at like Louisville, right? I think I saw it kind of pop into more stuff. I didn't really look too deep at all the Leo list outside of like the top one, so I don't know if it was super common there as well. But yeah, Nick, what do you think about Dragapult? Opinion on it is very up and down. I feel like depending on the week. How do you think it's positioned right now?
I think it's fine. I just don't particularly see why you would play it over Regidrago, is my main take on it.
What is it? Just because Drago does the same matchups better, or what?
To some extent, yeah. I'm just more of a fan of the versatility that Regidrago provides you with Kyurem and Giratina on top of the Dragon Bolt attack. Like, you're giving up 40 HP, which, yes, is a big deal, but then you're a stage 1 instead of stage 2, and you get to have a lot more options as well.
Sure. Caleb, do you have any thoughts on Dragapult?
Okay, so I said every deck was bad earlier, and I think that Dragapult is like the one deck that feels good when I play it.
Interesting.
I
Maybe
don't
you should
think
play
it's
that
that
then.
good either. Well, okay. So the issue with Dragapult is that it's just like worse Regidrago, like you said. But whenever I play it, it does feel like more consistent, and it feels like I like get to do what I want to do most games.
Mhm.
But I also feel like you like can't beat Snorlax if you just play the no Pidgeot version with just like streamlined consistency, which is like the version that feels good to me. And then I do feel like Iron Thorns might be up a little bit, which that matchup is not great. And then all around, like the rest of your matchups are just similar to Regidrago's. Like you're slightly unfavored against Bolt, you're close against Draco, you're slightly favored against Lugia. But I just think that the deck has felt good, but I just don't think it's better than Draco enough to warrant actually playing it.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, well, I mean, if it is the one that feels best for you, I hope to see you play it then this weekend. But I think we should probably just talk about Regidrago then, because Regidrago did just win Lille, and obviously described just now as a better Dragapult. Nick is a big fan of it. Nick, why did Regidrago win this last regional?
The best deck if you dodge Raging Bolt, and you can still beat those as well.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's even tougher with the Bravery Charm builds that are coming out. That way, your Radzard isn't able to kill their guys as easily. Obviously, they played the Jamming Tower too to help counter that a little bit. So good into the Dragapult matchup, shutting off the tool there. But I think if you're not hitting too many Raging Bolts, you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, and I actually know that James hit a few, but I mean, the matchup is like not that bad regardless.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not as bad as
they're kind
people
of forced
think
to
it
like
is.
right. They're kind of forced to like hit like catcher heads. So to be honest, like it's really not that bad of a matchup if you can like spam Radzard. It's just I mean like it's not one that you like actively want to play, but it's like pretty winnable. And yeah, Jamming Tower is also like generically good into like a decent amount of matchups. Like it's relevant versus Zard, Bolt, Guardy. So not a bad card to be playing there either. And obviously it does help a little bit versus the increased bravery charms that Bolt is playing right now.
Yeah, I think that Drago against Bolt is the main struggle is just the early turns. Like if you can get a good board, then you're fine against it. It's like becomes a pretty close matchup. You have good lines to win. Like I've also found that you can easily maybe like hit into a Fez with a bravery charm with Radzard and then later jamming tower that so that off Iono they don't get Fez proc and they can't stretch her for Fez either. And then even if they switch cart, they don't get out of range.
Why are they putting Bravery Charm on their Pheasantipity? That seems kind
Yeah,
of
they
weird.
shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do it. But you can also hit into their bowl, and they still don't get Fez proc if you like need to play into a 2-turn win and force them to not find switch cart. It's also not that bad if you can't find a gust that turn, or maybe like you could have bossed, but Iono is kind of necessary. I do just feel like the matchup is not great because the early turns, like Bolt is the most aggressive deck in the format, right? So it's like really, you need to get like Draco, Radzard, plus Ogre Pawn down early game. Otherwise, you just like lose a game. They'll just like bring up Draco or bring up whatever, bring up Radzard if you don't have Draco down, and then you just like can't win.
Any other decks that you're like worried about if you are going to play Regidrago, or is it just primarily Raging Bolt?
I think if you have Cologne, you pretty much have a fine matchup spread. Like Snorlax is like a deck that, depending on your list, could be a worry. But with Cologne, Jamming Tower, Sinnoh, plus Noctowl, like you can always Noctowl for Switch or Cologne, Prime Catch or whatever early on so that they can't like mill it before you get to it. And that makes that matchup like pretty close, maybe even favored, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And then like same with like the Thorns matchup. The Thorns matchup isn't really a worry when you have Noctowl for Cologne, like Noctowl Cologne Research. So I feel like some of the matchups that in the past have been like sketchier, now with playing Noctowl are completely fine. I do think the Zard matchup is like pretty close. If you're cutting Hawlucha, which most players are now, it's harder to get the 2 prize turns. And then if you only take 1 prize to start off, they can easily win. or even if you are able to take 2, they can pull off like Radzard stuff with Unfair Stamp. I think that matchup is like 50-50.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of cutting the Holucha personally. I get the point about Cologne if you're expecting decks like Snorlax, but those aren't something I expect to be too popular. Obviously, they do tend to do well in Europe, so maybe if you're going there, that's something you need to worry more about. Is a lot more control players over in Europe, it seems, than in the States. But I haven't been playing control in Regidrago for a while, and I haven't super missed it. The only time I did was at Worlds against the Iron Thorns. Like I've been doing fine into Snorlax even without it. Maybe I've been getting lucky, but Iron Thorns is really the only matchup where I feel like I wish I had it.
I think Cologne is probably like more important into Lax than it is into Thorns. Like you definitely have like decent lines into Thorns without Cologne, but Lax seems like almost impossible. Maybe the Mimikyu helps a little
maybe I've
bit.
just been getting lucky against the Snorlax players. I don't know.
The Noctowl maybe helps a little bit because you actually have like an out to Mimikyu, but like it's just like so resource intensive. And then when they force Cornerstone, like you have to be able to like attack with Drago V pretty much with no Cologne, and that's like usually impossible by that stage of the game.
I usually just don't evolve V-Star and just spam Dragon Laser.
Well, but like, what if they just like mimic you at that point?
Then you go into Mew.
Oh, okay, well.
Yeah, like I don't evolve the V-Star until the end.
Yeah, I don't think Mew is like especially good in the deck. It's like fine, but we have not been like playing that in our list. Sure. I guess that is like one major difference.
Did James play Mew? Like
James played Mew, yeah.
winning list maybe?
They did, yeah. John and Isaiah at Louisville cut it because they put in the 2-2 knockdown line, which seems like a lot for sure. I think the original list was better.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the list in general because it's getting to the point where like the Limitless page now has like 10 to 15 entries for this exact 60. It sounds like you're not sold on the Mew right now, and then there's canceling Clone seems like kind of debatable, but yeah, in general, this seems like a pretty like vanilla Regidrago list, kind of the baseline, right? Is there any reason to like stray away from this?
Play, I would just play that for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't have any reason to change.
I tend to agree, but I think like if you have like no experience with the deck, it's probably just the best 60 to pick up. But I think like third fire is like horrible. Like I feel like the amount of times that could just be a superior is like way higher.
I've actually been playing third, only 2 fire, and I've been kind of missing the third a lot of the time. Like I lost my round 2 in Louisville. I only played 2 fire energies. I bottom decked my superior that I needed to win against a what's it called? Against a Terapagos deck. And then I think one other game it got me 2, but I still ended up winning the set if I remember correctly. Especially if you prize one of them, it's an issue. Yeah, I've only been on 2 fire for a while.
But did you have like 2 fire and superior?
Yeah, I played 2 fire with 3 recovery. Both.
Yeah. Okay.
At Worlds, I played 4 recovery.
Damn. Okay. Well, I mean, 3 fire has been like getting really popularized, and like that's what it was pre-Worlds, and a lot of the lists that did well also played it at Worlds. But I think having superior, having 3 recoveries, like just gives you so much more options throughout the game, and it's like not very often that specifically having the superior over the fire will like punish you. I mean, I guess I do play 4 Vessel, and I'm like pretty confident, not confident, but I'm like pretty happy with playing 4 Vessel in the deck. So like I also have more outs to the fire.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't like about that the list that won is only having the 3 vessels. I definitely like having 4 for the early game consistency.
I agree with cutting Cologne, like from Nick, from what you were saying earlier. I do think if I play Regidrago this weekend in Poland, I will play Cologne because I expect Snorlax and Thorns to kind of have a little presence. But I think after that there will be, I believe there's some kind of South American major also before LAIC, and then we can look at those results and see like if you expect to see like Snorlax decline. I kind of do expect Snorlax to decline between now and LAIC because the Regidrago list that has been doing well just has all the answers for it. And I think the matchup is like pretty reasonable for Regidrago to win that.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about stall in a bit because yeah, it definitely surged at Lille, and we'll talk about if that's going to continue or not. But I want to talk about Lost Box for a bit because Michael here did happen to just get second place with Lost Box pretty recently. Is it safe to even consider Lost Box in a world where Reggie Drago just won the last tournament?
I don't think it's like not possible to consider. I think the deck is like inherently very strong. It like is one of the it like feels the best probably out of any deck in format. Like it feels the best to play, but like obviously the Drago match was like absolutely terrible. There's almost nothing you can add to make it feel any better. I don't think it's like that unrealistic that you can like go a tournament and maybe hit like only 2 Dragos. I think like my tournament run hitting 0 Dragos is like extremely unlikely, but I think like you could probably go a tournament and hit like 2 Dragos. I like I'm not even convinced it'll be the most popular deck. I still think that will be Raging Bolt. But like you have to be confident enough in your other matchups that you think like even if I hit like the on the low end 2 Dragos that like I'll just be winning every other round, which we were like pretty confident in, at least in Louisville, and for the most part, that's what most of us did.
Yeah, Louisville, I think it was at like a low in terms of popularity. Reggie Drago was. I didn't hit any mirrors at all. That's why I was kind of comfortable cutting the prime catcher for the stupid scoop up cyclone Neuvert package, because you're definitely folding mirror if you do that.
So yeah, I still think the deck is pretty like it's still like relatively well placed. Like obviously, besides the Drago matchup, the rest of your matchups are almost all favored to at the worst like 50-50, but it's just you have to kind of make that call that you either don't think you're going to hit that many Dragos or yeah, I don't know, you just have to like if you're going to play it, you have to assume that you're not going to hit that many Dragos and that you are confident in your ability to win all your other rounds pretty much.
Yeah, I think Lost Box was broken for Louisville, and the one round I lost not to Reggie Drago was to a misplay from myself. I lost to 2 Dragos, and then I lost to a Palkia Terapagos where I just didn't see the line, and I had to prime catcher before bumping my opponent's stadium, so he couldn't discard the Palkia V I needed to amp. Like I knew I couldn't play the stadium, but I just didn't realize I could just prime and then play the stadium, and then if I have a chance to Pokestop in the game, I would have drawn it. And I mean, I think the deck was really good at Louisville. Manaphy was like super low played in Charizard and Bolt, and then Drago was fairly low. But now I don't think the deck's that good. Like Drago is gonna be, I think, top 3 popularity, and also since Drago is rising, Manaphy's also gonna rise in like Charizard, Dragapult, even
Yeah. Do you think
Terapagos.
that these decks should be including Manaphy that we haven't been seeing, like you mentioned, Dragapult, Terapagos specifically?
Yeah, I think
Maybe
so.
Charizard as well. Charizard probably needs it less than the other two. That's the one that can kind of bounce back from a turn 2 Trifrost the most.
Yeah, you have Stamp. Like,
Mhm.
it's okay.
Stamp and Thornton, right?
Stamp,
But
Thornton, yeah.
it's still like close, and Manaphy probably adds percentage in that matchup. And I feel like in most Zard lists you have at least like some space to work with if like Drago's like the matchup that you want to prioritize. So I think like all of those decks can and probably should be playing Manaphy going into like a Drago dominated format.
Yeah.
How much worse of a play does that make Reggie Drago then, though?
I don't think it affects it like that much. I don't think the majority
Like if your
are going to
Polt's
play
going
Manaphy.
from 70-30 to 50-50, for example. I don't
I
know,
don't
I'm
think
making
Bolt will
up
be that
numbers.
popular. I think well, we played the Bolt matchup some the other day, and I think it is like close to 50-50, but also like you can just skill diff them from either side. And then I still haven't seen Bolts including Manaphy, same with Zards. Like it'll be there for sure and make Drago a little worse, but I still think all of those matchups are gonna be fine.
I think Dragapult it makes the most sense too, since you don't really have any way to come back from Gordwipe, even against like Palkia, if you only got down to two guys and they just ninja them, you're in trouble too. So.
I know Gabe was saying the main reason he put in the mana fee for Louisville was because he was afraid of Regidrago, and then ended up not being super popular at the event. But definitely seems like a pretty strong inclusion, especially in Terrapagos going forward, and then other decks. Yeah, kind of just depends on what Nick and Caleb were just talking about. So, any other Lost Box thoughts? It seems really scary to play. I wouldn't do it.
I think I'll also be waiting till next set to bring back out the Lost Box.
I have to agree. I probably would not play, like, even the deck like still like feels very good to play, but just, I would be too scared of Drago going to like any event for the rest of this format, to be honest.
Yeah.
To do well, you would need to play like perfectly and win all your non-Drago matchups, and then even then, like, the deck is not the easiest deck to play, so you have to be confident in it, and at that point just play like something better, like Regidrago that can actually handle other Regidragos.
I was gonna say, speaking of the Drago mirror, what do you guys think about opting second?
It's awesome.
Yeah. We've been opting second. It's broken.
Yeah, since Baltimore. It's like a little bit scary in this format because of Noctowl, but like if your opponent is like using all their resources, and like the odds that they even bench who turn one are so low if they're like using all their resources to like knock out a Drago, and that's assuming you only get one. Like,
right.
It's like fine. As long as you can like Cleffa turn one, like your odds of going second have to be like 80% to win or something.
I don't know about that, but maybe 65.
Yeah, I don't know.
When we played Goodra, it was much better. Now it's like kind of sketchy.
Yeah, what do you guys think about putting Goodra back in? I probably would at this point.
Maybe, yeah.
It's not like bad.
I haven't been.
It's like a little bit hard to fit.
And I'm a Goodra hater, so.
The question is like what the percentage changes in the mirror.
Sure.
Yeah, because like if your expected win rate against like the average player is like 60%, if it changes like 70%.
I was getting crushed in the mirror when they had Goodra and I didn't at Worlds and in Baltimore.
Yeah. If they have Goodra and you don't, then that's gonna. If they know how to use it. Oftentimes they'll like put Goodra in their list and they'll just spam Tina anyways.
It does more damage, of course.
You take a knockout.
Yeah, that's way more awesome.
Yeah. I don't understand the complaints about Pheasantipity. Like, you can just not knock them out and then take 4 prizes later, or like, take 6 prizes later even. Like, don't let them use it.
And sometimes you need to take with like
some decks, right?
Like, what are you playing Zard? And you have Dusknoir Fire. So
I feel like every deck can take a 4 prize turn. I don't know. What are you guys worried about Pheasantipity?
Yeah.
I think
if Dusknoir didn't exist though, then you couldn't do that either.
But it does.
But Dusknoir is like cringe. You just get like turn 2 Dusknoir and take out your opponent's whole board. But like, don't ban them. That's like kind of crazy.
I don't think like anything right now in the format is like even like close to getting banned. Like,
yeah, I feel like the format's pretty well balanced. Honestly, we've seen a wide diversity of decks every tournament doing well. I don't think there's much to complain about.
It's well balanced because everyone says all the decks are bad, and they're all like equally bad, so it's fine.
Yeah.
If every deck is bad, then that means that no deck is too good, right?
There you go.
Yeah, I think the format's fine.
Drago is pretty good.
Speaking of bad decks, I wanted to talk about Lugia for a bit because it's just kind of been the top, one of the most like talked about and kind of just repeatedly consistently performing well at every single event. Not winning all of them, of course, but still like top cutting to reasonable numbers at every single event.
Yeah, it's been like 1 or 2 every time at least.
Yep,
Not
and
at least,
it's
1 or 2 every time.
It's interesting because like it doesn't feel like people have like respected Lugia more since like this entire kind of domination period. It's just kind of been doing its thing, and the lists are very kind of honestly they're mostly pretty similar to what people were doing beforehand too. The new set didn't really change Lugia in particular, except some people. I think the only real thing is like the Wellspring Mask Ogre is like much stronger position than it used to be, but not everyone's even playing that.
That's just a function of people not playing Mana Fey for whatever reason.
Yeah. So less reason to play that, honestly, if people start throwing in the Mana Fey again. But I played the Ogre to Louisville and it was insane. You got me so many random wins.
Yeah, because no one's playing.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So take 2, shuffle my legacy back in, amp you again later. Seems pretty
exactly.
good.
No, I was literally just like, yep. Wellspring into Iron Hands, like every other games, and it was a good time. But yeah, the deck's been doing really well. Still has not really had any issues with anything in the format. You can argue there's even more reason to play it if Ready Drago is like a top deck, because I think that matchup's still probably Lugia favorite. I don't think anything's really changed for it. But
I don't know. I think like with all the Dragos playing Sinnoh, I think that matchup's pretty decent for
you think it's
Drago.
decent? Like, what is
Drago
it? Define
pretty
decent.
even. It's even.
Like slightly
55
favored.
at least.
55 at
best,
least.
At best 60% in terms of Lugia.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Well, I think that the thing about Lugia is that everyone who plays Draco is terrible. So
Sure.
even if they play Sinnoh, you just destroy them anyways. You just go like take 2, turn 2, and their brain crumbles. I feel like Lugia has like no good matchup.
No good matchups.
I think you're unfavored against Zard. I think you're unfavored against Drago. Bolt is maybe favored, but they play a bunch of charms now.
Yeah.
And if you play
it's
Jamming
close.
Tower, then you're not playing more Mesigoza.
I was testing Lugia into my student who's been maining Bolt for a while now, and the charms were definitely putting in work for him. Like
Yeah.
since needs an extra energy, you can't kill with Bear on the active. If you like limit your bench, then you can charm the ogre. Like say you only put 1 ogre pawn, you can charm it, and then they don't have a good boss kill with Lugia target. There's a lot of things you can do with that.
For sure.
I'm a big fan of the heavy charm raging Bolt deck right now.
And then also like block has been like historically Lugia's best matchup, but like some people say that like the Diancie, if block chooses to include it, can actually like swing that matchup a little bit, which I'm a little skeptical on, but like being able to kill the Chinchinos, especially if they only play the 1, and then just like force Cornerstone is like a decent strategy in the matchup. But so it's like it makes like the Lugia matchup like a little bit better for block, maybe even better than like the Sinnoh stuff. Maybe not better than that stuff, but it like gives block another dimension in the matchup. So even like that, which has historically been like by far Lugia's best matchup, is maybe not even like that good anymore. So I'm kind of with Caleb on struggling to find Lugia's like best matchups besides the deck being like inherently strong.
Maybe that's why it just keeps doing well, honestly.
I think you do destroy block.
You think so?
Like especially the no Rotom version, they have like no way to beat you. And then also I'm just looking at like the Lugia list from Leal, like multiple ones that made it into the top 16 had multiple Chinchinos. So even if there is,
I like the
there,
2/2
it just depends on your list. So yeah, I think 2/2 seems good. I think the biggest draw from Lugia is that it's really good to beat someone who doesn't know exactly what they're doing. Like they have to have a good plan against Lugia, and they also have to draw well. If they draw like slightly bad, then you can easily just also capitalize on that. And none of your matchups are particularly bad either. Like even though I said the deck doesn't have like good matchups, I don't think it has like any terrible matchups across the board.
Like,
Sure.
Thorns is not super popular right now. Even Maraudon's not very popular.
Good Thorns.
I don't see why you would really play Thorns right now if all the Dragos are playing Noctowl.
Maybe we do have to play Jamming Tower in Lugia, but it's just not Mesigoza for Bolt Charms.
What else is it good against Dragapult, I guess?
Yeah.
Bolt, I guess. Yeah, Zard a little bit.
The thing is, you just need to set up, right?
If you get it early against Zard, it's pretty good. Yeah, that's the issue. Not playing Mesigoza sounds pretty bad.
Yeah.
People play like a 1-1 split, and then I'm like, okay, how are you finding your Jamming Tower?
The point of that, yeah. Just pick one or the other.
Yeah, I don't know how you like one of the top 8 lists has no Fez, no Mesigoza. I don't know how you ever survive like a late game. I don't know without it, but they did. So
you still have gift energy. What do you mean?
Gift energy.
Okay, they Pokemon catcher around it.
Yeah. Bolt catcher.
Then your attacker didn't die.
Yeah, what if your attacker's just like a Lugia though?
Yeah, it depends.
I guess it depends. It depends on the situation.
Very much depends on the match.
They'll just drop the bear.
It's scary.
If it's Drago and they just Sinnoh you though, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was saying, do you guys like the Raikou Lightning for now?
It didn't seem good into the Leal meta, for sure. But I think
Yeah,
one of
I
the
mean
lists
it's for
had it.
Pidgeot mainly, right? Like
Yeah.
it's against
Yeah.
like Charizard.
It's
You
good
kill
into
their
Palkia,
Pidgeot.
but you
But
don't need it against Palkia. Like, the matchup's still
True.
fine.
Mhm.
Just play Tutu Chinchino has to be better, I think.
Yeah, Cinchinos are just, like, too
So one
good and too
riser.
versatile
Not
right
a
now.
Lugia expert.
Yeah. Yeah, Raikou would have been specifically good for me because I kept drawing bad against. I hit 4 Palkia at Louisville, and I drew bad against all of them.
wow.
So if I had Raikou, I might have been fine. But
Yeah, throwing up a one prizer that doesn't die to Dusknoir or that doesn't die to Dusknoir sounds good.
for sure. But yeah, so let's talk briefly about Stall then, because we kind of mentioned. I think we kind of covered most things that we would say about Stall anyway, just by talking about it in terms of other decks. But is there anything really to like? Is Rotomless just like by far the best way to play it, or are people going to be going away from Spiritomb since everyone is doing Rotomless stuff in general, or all the stalls are doing Rotomless?
What decks were even playing Spiritomb? I feel like that can't be the reason they cut Rotom. I think it's just you don't want Rotom in play as a liability.
Yeah.
That's part of it too. Yeah.
I think it's for the Dusknoir decks mainly. Like they can like
Yeah.
Dusknoir kill Rotom with Euroscape,
Dusknoir
and
kill
then
Rotom, I only need a
you gave
4.
them free prizes. Yeah, like your Rotom never got value anyways.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that version without the Rotom gives you more consistency through.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with Spiritomb.
It was like partially that,
also,
but I was talking to some people about it.
Since you're not giving them 2 prize cards, then you can just force like 6 block laxes,
Yeah.
which just like beats Palkia or Terapagos if they only
Sure.
play like Prime Switch. There's no way their Dusknoirs get them enough prizes, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
I do think that block, if you want to beat Lugia, then you maybe have to play like some kind of Rotom Diancie something.
Yeah.
Because Rotomless, your only chance is like maybe you hit Iron Hands off of a flute and you can gust it up like 5 times and start to discard their legacy energy with Giacomo or fan it off. But like I messaged Sandra.
So why do you need Rotom to do the Diancie thing?
Giacomo. Well, I
Just to
tried
search
to
for
put
the
it in the
energy
deck,
with Forest?
but you are, yeah, kind of. Like the thing about the Rotom
'Cause I'm
build
thinking
is
they're
I
just gonna
already had
boss
like a
kill
bunch
it,
of
right?
mixed energies.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
And why
this
couldn't you
version
do that
need to
anyway?
find like, I mean you could, but the deck I feel like is tighter on space because you have to play a lot more item-based draw. Like the Rotom one is your like whole draw is Rotom. This
It's
one
just
you're
Rotom,
playing
sure.
like 4 of the boxed orders and trekking shoes. So like I would have to cut. I tried fitting it in, but I would need to play like
But then your deck
Diancie plus
just
energy
doesn't draw
plus
any
energy
cards.
surge plus switch card, and now that's like 4 cards. Seems maybe good if you could like find the balance with the list. But then also Drago is scary. Like I think block is just a lot worse after Leal.
Sure. Yeah, I did remember what I wanted to say about Lugia because Diancie. I think it's funny that Stellar Crown introduced like 2 anti-Lugia cards in Mo Rotom and Diancie, and it's kind of taken this long for one of them to actually pop up in these lists, which is the Diancie. The Mo Rotom just doesn't do too much, unfortunately, but
What does that
Diancie's
even
pretty good.
do? Yeah.
Mo Rotom,
Yeah,
for
I
those who
don't
don't
know what Mo Rotom is.
it discards all the special energy from the active.
Just from the act, that doesn't sound good.
Exactly, yeah. Like,
that sounds
it also
terrible.
discards tools, actually, so there you go. But
Tools and specials.
Tool and special energy. But
Yeah.
yeah, in
that
theory
Lugia
it like
plays any
would do
tools.
something, but yeah, it's the Diancie's really strong.
Because even Yveltal, the one that discarded 3 special energies from anywhere, was like just okay against Lugia.
Yeah.
Granted, that was when Lugia was like super broken.
That was very different. Yeah. Those were dark times. Or good times if you're thinking about playing Lost Box Rayquaza, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to play my Ray deck. Got the top 4s. That was definitely like my best performing set, I'd say.
Yeah. So the next deck I want to talk about then was Terapagos because obviously made top cut at Louisville, gave made top cut with it, and then didn't show up at Leal. Actually showed up like, I think Leal was like the first tournament, or maybe Louisville was, where it just stopped converting like super well. There was only Terrapagos in day 2 at Lille, and they didn't place particularly well, I think. Yeah, the highest one is 21st. What's going on with Terrapagos? Have people just caught on to it? What's going on?
I think the deck, it definitely benefited early on from like people not really knowing how to play against it. But like as time went on in the format, that definitely changed. You also kind of have, like you don't have as many of your good matchups like without playing Manaphy in the deck, which I mean I guess some of the popular lists are playing Manaphy.
Yeah,
like
I
Gabe
think
did
you
well with
probably should.
Manaphy.
Yep.
But the Drago matchup like does not feel very good with no Manaphy, and most lists weren't playing it. So with Drago like doing extremely well in Lille day 2, if you weren't playing Manaphy, like that's probably not a great matchup.
Sure.
Like, yeah, as Michael said, Drago's a bad matchup if you're not playing Manaphy, which most weren't, even though Gabe did well with it, and I think it's good. I am considering Terrapagos this weekend. Like, I think it's a solid deck, but one other factor I think was all the bolts adding charms. If the Terrapagos didn't add some kind of tool removal, then it gets significantly harder to 2/2 map against them. Like, you still have lines. You could definitely like triple Gust depending on your list and depending on their bench. Like if they can conserve their bench and not bench Squawk and still get the turn 1 knockout, then maybe they can have a board where you're not able to Gust something up if they have charms on like a couple Ogre Pawns and no other 210 or less HP Pokemon.
The best line I found in that matchup as Raging Bolt is just not benching anything really. Like just bolt, one
Yeah,
Ogre
it's like
Pawn.
2
That's
bolts.
all you need.
If you can find turn 1 Sada, just take 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really can't do anything about that.
Mhm.
You kind of need like a vac, and then you
You
got
probably need to
kill
play
Ogre Pawn.
Vacuum. Even then, like where are you getting your last 4 prizes? If they charmed all of
And
those,
you
for
need to
example.
charm both your bolts, but then at some point you're not hitting enough damage as bolt.
You only have to charm one of them, right? Because double
I could
Dust Snore
double
doesn't
Dust
kill the
Snore one
charmed one.
bolt.
No,
I guess if
you can't.
if you don't have
If it's
well,
charmed, it
yeah, I'm
doesn't
saying
die.
like the one without the charms, I kill that
Yeah,
one.
but then the other one doesn't
But
die
if
to
you don't
pair.
have anything else on board, if you have just that on
Exactly.
board. But if you have just that, how are you ever hitting enough to knock out multiple turns in a row? You need to bench
Hardly.
Ogre Pawn at some point, right?
Mhm.
No, we don't need him.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Anyway,
Maybe we
I've
have
been
to
really
play 3 vacuums.
I've been really liking Raging Bull personally. I might bring it to
Triple
Brazil.
Dust
We'll
Snore.
see.
Triple Dust Snore, yep.
Okay, 3 prizes. Thanks.
Dude,
Already took the first
5
2.
Dust Snores, kill both your bolts. GG.
Dude, what if you
buddy.
pop 6
Just
Dust
board wipe.
Snores? There you go. Win the game, no problem.
Yeah, maybe you use like
Crazy.
what do you use before that? Like there's Naganadal GX gives your opponent a
Anyway,
prize.
speaking of Terrapagos, I think that deck should be playing a Super Rod. I found it to be super useful. To get
Super
back
useful.
multiple things. Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't
pun.
seem bad. You might run out of Pokemon if they like bump your stadium multiple times.
Yeah, one of the issues with the deck without playing Super Rod is I would run out of Pokemon to fill my bench with a lot of the time.
Sure.
So being able to get 3 guys back and then popping them out has been useful to me. So I like the Gabe list, just -1 stretcher for a Rod.
Stretcher for a Rod, yeah. I might try that too.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, maybe you do want to vacuum for the Bolt.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the matchups I've been struggling against as Terrapagos.
Speaking of Raging Bolt, it obviously won Louisville, and it did not do well at Lille. Let me look what the highest placing one was. Oh gosh, it's far down. Oh no, there's a top 8. There's a top 8, and then there's not one for a while after that. But one did make top cut, but it did not. I think let's see how many were in day 2. There were 9 in day 2, which was 5th place. But yeah, we were predicting on the last episode that Raging Bolt numbers would go up because people would be emboldened by it winning at Louisville, and we were correct. It went up not a lot though, but it was a higher percentage than before. And I think the predictions will be that it'll probably stay the same, if not rise again, because people will be like, oh, I have like a decent Regidrago matchup, so I'll just play it again.
I think the main reason it didn't do well is I can't think of any like top players who brought it. I feel like they all brought Reggie Drago to that tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, mainly what decks do
I
well
think
is
it's still
usually a
good.
function of what good players decide to play. If all the decks are like, relatively equally good.
The only issue I've had with the deck is like just struggling to draw with all the charms in the deck. Like sometimes I just like won't draw enough energy power to take the knockout. Like I have all these charms, but I won't get going as fast as I would have with like the
Sure.
shoes list. But I just still think it's good.
What about you, Michael? Obviously, you had the rough loss to Raging Bolt. How do you feel it's positioned? You with the recent tournament results?
Yeah, I think the deck is pretty. Well, I hesitate to say good, but it is like very good at like punishing slow starts from other decks. I think the charms give you like a lot of outs against other decks. Like may have been a struggle, but I have to like agree with Caleb because like I feel like the deck just like draws so much more awkwardly. Maybe not. Maybe it's not actually that big of a difference, but it just like feels so much worse to play. Just having like so much more clunky cards in your deck that don't really directly contribute to your strategy, and then maybe like they give you the amount of time in like certain matchups that can kind of like make up for that. But I just feel like the clunkiness like aspect that it kind of added to the deck kind of turns me off of it a little bit.
How would you feel about playing it without any charms?
I don't think like the matchups are like necessarily there without the charms.
Right.
So it's kind of like
I think they
for me, it's
add
like
a
a catch
ton to it.
22.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I think the deck is like pretty decent, but it's just like not something I exactly want to play, and I'm like not convinced on most of the matchups.
Sure.
Charm adds at least like 10% against Lugia and probably more
Yeah.
against Terapagos, maybe a little bit against Zard, because like without them the matchup seems like terrible. With
Mhm.
them maybe it's at least a chance there.
Probably still not great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still at best like 40-60, but
Sure.
you can cheese something. If you put a charm on active, then they can't just go Defiance knockout. They have to find counter catcher.
They have to have counter catcher. Not that that's hard. But...
Sure.
Yeah, no, it's still pretty easy, but maybe they'll bench Rotom turn 1 and you'll catch your heads take 2.
Yeah, easy peasy.
Then you still lose probably to Radzard. But Charm saves your Bolt from getting Radzarded. So then
Charm does your save your Bolt from
run
getting
them out of
Radzarded.
counter catchers. Run them out of counter catchers.
Easy.
Wait, maybe eventually they kill all your Ogre Pawns and you have only Bolts with Charms.
I was gonna ask too
This
about.
still seems really bad.
I was gonna ask about Raging Bolt. Is Briar just like dead? Should nobody ever play Briar in Raging Bolt? What's
Not
what do you think?
terrible.
Yeah.
I would maybe rather just play a second boss though.
It feels worse if you're already like clunking your deck with the bravery charms and stuff. To also have another
And
card
it's
that's like
like it's like
unplayable early.
it's like so difficult to use in
Yeah.
a lot of
It
your
is
matchups.
so hard to use.
Yeah. Yeah, I when I was testing Raging Bolt for Louisville, the only time I was like feeling good about the Briar was when I was playing like a Dusknoir package because it just happens way more often. Like you get a good Briar play, but charms are definitely just like better. So doesn't seem like it's the best going forward. I guess at least in that kind of build of Raging Bolt, it's just too hard to like reliably use it, even in the matchups where it's like actually good and useful. But yeah, the next deck to talk about then is one that Michael wanted to talk about, which was the Henry Chow Turbo Gardevoir list. Why did you want to talk about it, Michael? What do you think? What do you think about it?
I just think the deck is pretty decent matchup wise. It's very difficult to play, especially like if you don't have a lot of experiences with a lot of experience with the deck, or just like Guardy in general. Because even with a lot of general Guardy experience, it's definitely takes a little bit more to play with like a different build.
Can you explain the difference between that and like kind of standard Gardevoir for viewers who are not aware?
Yeah, so at least post rotation, slow Guardy has kind of been like no candies in the deck, just like relying on TM Evo every game. Unfair Stamp since that's come out, and recently at least like more Devo lines. But like the fast build, which Henry Chow's been playing like since before Baltimore, I think. The fast build is like multiple candies, secret box for more aggressive plays, researches, not a lot of like the slower cards like Flutter Mane, Second Monkey. You're just trying to like prize race your opponents more aggressively because the slow guardy build like is really weak to like Dustin or shenanigans.
Yeah, they
just
kill
to
all
like
your Corellias and
yeah,
you can
it's
draw.
like weak to getting board wiped. But like having candies and researches, Pheasantipity, just like more onboard draw and like the ability to turbo through your deck faster like allows you to prize race in some of these matchups. And I
Just rare
think
candy so that you can still get outguarded for even if your Corellias die.
right.
Yeah.
And I think the deck's matchups are pretty good. I think the Drago jamming time matchup is pretty sus. But like from our testing, I thought it was like terrible, but when I watched Henry play the deck, he was doing a little bit, well, a lot better than
I'm so surprised. Yeah, the guy who created it is good with it.
I'm hearing you should only play it if your name is Henry Chow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's like unfair to say, but I don't know.
Or you just put in like 5,000 games or whatever, like he did with it, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, something like
yeah.
It's not.
But yeah, that's definitely a list I don't think I wouldn't expect to be popular in any sense at these upcoming tournaments.
Yeah, but no, I don't think it'll be like a significant portion of the meta share, but I do think it's like a little bit maybe underrepresented, under respected.
Sure.
I don't know exactly how to quantify it, but I think the deck is like pretty solid. Just like very difficult to play, and you need to like get experience with it before you even like want to consider playing it.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's 2 days before Gdansk, so pick it up now if you want to play it, and then you're good to go. Any other Gardevoir thoughts, either slow or turbo Guardy?
I really liked slow at like the beginning of the format, and there's like maybe a world where it's like still
you like won a cup with it, right?
I won like 2 in a row, but I didn't really verse much Drago. The Dragos that I versed like were, if like I think I hit one player twice. He was pretty new to the game. I was able to win a game and cut one of the cups without ever putting a Guardy EX in play. So
what?
I think
how?
he just like burned all his resources and then like unnecessarily benched Radzard and a second Drago V, so I just like gusted it up. So I think like maybe slow Guardy actually has like a chance in this format now that Terapagos is kind of like being less played, but I still think in general the Turbo Guardy build has better matchups.
Sure.
And I think also a lot of the Devo strats are like
slow one.
The Devo strats are like super mid this format. I don't know if they were ever like that strong, but they felt pretty good in the past. But with any deck just being able to like bench Pheasantipity, even if you like disrupt and Devo, it just like feels so much worse, especially against like Zard. If they can like save their candies throughout the game, then they can just like probably Dippity into game, because like by the time you're even ready to make a Devo play, unless it's like super early, and then you're not even like taking prizes with Devo, but unless like you do that and like brick them, it is so hard to like properly disrupt them.
Zard is one deck we didn't really talk about.
Zard was the next deck I was about to hit.
Caleb's favorite deck.
Yeah, Caleb, who famously got second with the deck. Charizard's interesting because on the last episode, we were like, oh yeah, Charizard was criminally underplayed at whatever tournament was before Louisville. And we're like, oh, or when was our podcast? Was our podcast before Louisville? Or was it before Lille? No, our podcast was before Lille after Louisville, and Charizard was underplayed at Louisville, I believe, right?
Yeah, Sebastian got top 4 with it.
Yes.
I lost to a Japanese guy playing it on my win into top 32. I just drew really poorly.
Yeah, it looks like it showed up really well in day 2, but didn't have a high play rate. Maybe that's what it was. I don't remember. Or maybe it was the previous tournament. Regardless, Charizard was not like super represented. It got 3rd in play rate for day 2, so not too bad. It tied with Snorlax, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, Charizard is Charizard. I don't even know how to describe Charizard because it's just kind of, I don't know, it just feels like it's kind of there. Caleb, can you sell people on Charizard right now?
Kind of. I mean, Azul posted a new Charizard list, and I was like, we're gonna run it back. We're gonna copy Zul's Charizard list and play it to Poland. But then I played like 5 ladder games and went 1 and 4, and I was like, yeah, no, we need to play Dusknoir in this deck. So yeah, like Sebastian's list is fine, and I think the deck has solid matchups. Like if all the Regidragos aren't playing Hawlucha, the matchup is pretty either 50-50 or maybe even slightly favored, especially
Really?
if you just like know the lines. Maybe if you add Manaphy too, depending. I don't know. I've played a little bit with Manaphy, and I'm not sure how big of a difference it makes, but it definitely gives you a little bit of percent. So like that's fine. And then your Bolt matchup's obviously good. I think your Lugia matchup's good if you set up. It's just like you need to get a lot going, and then once you do, you have like Dusknoir Briar stuff where you can deal with the Cinccino, and then also just prize trade them with Briar. But it does feel like you need to set up a lot in that matchup.
Yeah.
And the reason that I don't love the deck right now is just you need to set up a lot in a lot of matchups. Like the Drago matchup and the Lugia matchup, it feels like you need to get a lot going. It's only like the Bolt matchup where you don't need very much.
Sure.
I'm like a pretty big fan of Zard. I think Sebastian's list is really good. I got to play against him in top 4, and like he basically, besides Manaphy, he had like every card that I could like that I didn't really want to see. Besides like Jirachi, I guess, but any like reasonable card to play in Zard besides
Jirachi
Manaphy, he pretty much had it. And
Rabska.
I think if you can like play Zard to a good enough degree, and I don't think the deck is like especially hard, but some of the nicher lines are maybe a little bit more difficult to see. But I think if you can play Zard to a reasonable degree, I think it's pretty solid. I think the Drago matchup is overestimated in Drago's favor. It is nowhere near as good as it was, especially like with most of them not playing Hawlucha. It's not even close to as good as it maybe was in the past. Even if like they had Manaphy, I think like the Drago matchup is like pretty close, and you have a lot of lines. They also need to know how to play the matchup with Briar. So I think Zard is actually pretty well placed into, and I don't think any of your matchups are like especially bad. You can also like play Cologne, and that'll make your Thorns and your block matchups a little closer. So I think Zard has like room to tech for most decks, most matchups, and your matchups are already pretty solid around the board to begin with.
Nick, do you have any Charizard thoughts?
I'm pretty impartial to it.
Pretty impartial. That's how I feel. Yeah.
I've put much time into lately.
Yeah, it seems if you're good at Zard, I think we said it was well positioned last time, and I think it's still solidly positioned this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you can kind of play anything this format, and it's fine.
Yeah, everything's bad, so just play whatever.
I think everything's pretty fine. Yeah. Play whatever you're comfortable with, really.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's your takeaway, Caleb. What are you comfortable with? Play that. Then you're good.
I don't know. I'm comfortable with the Lost Box, but I can't play that.
Oh yeah, it's probably okay. Play what you're comfortable with, but maybe not Lost Box. That would be my advice for.
Or just get lucky and don't have any Dragos.
You could pull a Michael. This is possible in a tournament where there'll probably be almost maybe not twice as many, but there'll be a decent amount more probably.
Yeah.
Percentage wise,
yes,
but
yes.
there could actually be less Dragos because the tournament is like much smaller.
What percentage was it
Not
at
that
Louisville?
much smaller.
Do you know?
There you go. I have
9 or 10?
Yeah, I think it was a little less than that.
Less than that.
I think it was also only 8 at Lille.
Okay.
It just did really well.
Yeah, 8-ish. Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe
Louisville,
if you want to take the
under
risk, yeah, go
8.
for it. Might not be too bad.
Now it's gonna be over 10. I think.
It will probably be over 10.
Yeah.
When I got top 8 with Miraidon, I didn't hit a single Charizard, even though it was like a 20% deck. I mean, I was tech for the
I hit some
matchup.
Miraidons that Charlotte. How much was so free?
They didn't have the Zapdos though. Not Zapdos. What's his name? Tapu Koko.
Tapu Koko?
Or did you play a Switch?
EX paralyzes.
Oh right.
Nah, but You could
That was
still
my
win.
tech
It's
for
just
the
like a
Zard
free one
matchup.
shot. You still could win.
You didn't play Switch, or you did?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I felt like the matchup was pretty fine if they didn't play
I
Switch.
thought you did, but
Maybe I did. I played as
If they
Wolves.
did, it was pretty shocking.
right. I thought he had.
I
Because
think they
I know he
played
didn't
Switch
play
at some
Rogue.
point.
In Portland,
Switch
yeah, they
seems
played
so
Switch
bad
in
though.
Portland,
So
but
like, there's
I
no way I
dodged all of them.
played it.
It was the Tapu Koko Tech.
Tapu Koko Tech.
There is a Switch in your deck.
Seems so bad, dude.
I'm telling you, it was only for Tapu Koko.
I mean, it was like more for like Radzard start, but I don't know.
Sure. Yeah,
Ooh,
that
we
too,
don't
I
play.
suppose.
Do we play Turo? Is that a card?
Is that a
No,
card?
it wasn't
you
out.
didn't play Turret.
It wasn't
You
out
just
yet.
played Switch.
Oh,
Wait, it
Okay.
wasn't out
So
yet?
we
Yeah, it
actually
was.
Wait,
That
when
was
was
Paradox
this?
Rift. What are you talking about?
Okay, wait.
dude, Turo has to have been out
I
forever.
think
For
Turo was just super underplayed
Yeah,
when it first came
Turo
out.
was out. I lied.
No one really played Turo when it first came out, just in general.
Dude, Turo had to be good. Wait, but Mew
Yeah, I
is
don't
a
know,
deck,
just no
right?
one
So
played
you
it.
can't ever Turo against Mew. You just like destroy them.
What do you mean?
So we don't want to play dead cards like Turo against Mew.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but Switch does better? What do you mean?
I don't know. We could switch into our Mew and then see the top 6 cards and
What are
give
you
them
talking about?
VIP.
it's a playable
maybe.
card, yeah.
No. You switch into Mew.
Yeah.
You know, like
Oh,
Stellar
Mew
Wish
Cell.
Mew.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. I
That
thought you were
card's kind
talking
of
about
broken. I
Mew
wish you could play
VMAX.
that.
I thought you were like, oh, against Mew VMAX, we don't want to play any dead cards in our deck because as long as we set up, we win.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's also
that's what I'm
partially
saying.
true, right?
Like
That's
a
what
bunch
I
of
thought you were saying.
artisans to bump path.
I can't believe I lost to 2 Mews at LAIC, even though I played Barrel in my deck. I should have played 3-2 Barrel. I only played 2-2. That was my problem.
Yeah, that was a huge mistake, obviously.
But that was before you
I would've
got
made top card if I played
3-2 Bidoof.
3-2 Barrel.
When was that? When did that
Yeah.
happen? It's like
I figured
NAIC?
that one out for the tournament before it.
Indy?
Indianapolis, yeah. At in UIC, I was like, my Bidoofs keep getting killed. I'm putting a third one in.
Oh right, I remember seeing this. Yeah.
And then I top aided what's it called? I just said it, Indianapolis, and then lost the win in at NAIC with the same list, or like one card different.
Right. But I wanted to mention quickly before we wrap things up. Even if you think this format is bad, at least we are not playing in the current China format where it's 47% Lugia right now. So
yeah, that one seems so cringe. Like no save
Yeah.
line,
no save line, no
forces,
ground is
no-
wild.
That seems like
Like,
that
why
seems
would
like
you play any
awesome.
deck other than Tsar, other than Lugia in that format?
You
I saw
play
Jake
Lugia.
tweeted like, "Oh, you can play this Inteleon box."
Detcher's just like auto wins like the whole meta.
Detchers?
What's Detchers?
Oh,
Dura
no.
catchers.
Arctura?
Yeah. And you
Dude,
catch
that
up
is
their
not a
Archaea.
50-50. That is not a 50-50. Come on.
No, Grant and Andrew play it all the time.
I know.
I think they were saying like all the Lugias were playing like Colognes and stuff, so they wouldn't lose to
They probably were,
the
yeah.
Duraludon.
The Detcher.
Ooh, the 2 Cologne Lugia deck. That deck was broken. I should
That
have
deck actually was
before
broken.
Wayne, but
I
I
also should have been.
I misplayed by like 1 minute of not prize checking, and I needed to tie for top cut, and I lost because I didn't prize check one of the games, and I could have
Ooh.
just like went to tie.
I see.
I lost my winning into E-turn with the double Cologne Lugia deck because game 1 I
Ah.
opened like Luminion 7 energies,
Oh Jesus.
and then game 2 I think I just drew really mid. I like opened Stoutland, so I like you really want to be like reading the wind every turn, and I just
Yeah.
like couldn't do that.
I forget about some of these old cards that used to be in standard, like like
Read the
Amazing
Wind.
Raikou and Stoutland.
like Luminion and
Those cards
Lugia.
were
Yeah,
good.
read the wind. Yeah,
Like,
and Archaea.
Lugia Peter,
It's rotating. We're losing Lugia
Like,
pretty soon. So
Professor Burnett.
we are.
No.
Professor Burnett, I missed that. But yeah, we should wrap up because we keep going on tangents. So that's gonna be it for this episode of the Dead Draw Gaming Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate it. Have a lot of cool stuff coming. I know we kind of slowed down on the content recently, but that's partially because, one, I'm really busy, but two, I've been working on a bigger video project of our Worlds video. I have a rough draft of that up, and I'm working on getting more of that done. I don't know how long it's going to take me to finish it, but it will eventually be up on the channel, and you don't want to miss it, so make sure you subscribe for that. But yeah, any shout-outs? Caleb?
Shout out to myself. Follow me on x.com at Memanch, MEMAANHC. And then hopefully I win Poland, so you can check out my deck list that I have not built yet.
Yeah,
after I win.
Follow Caleb so you can tell him which deck to play.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Even though maybe I'll be on a plane when this comes out. Who knows?
Are you? When are you leaving? When's your flight?
Same time as Michael.
Oh, it'll be.
We just well no, but like we leave. Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I will edit this after. Anyway, Nick, shoutouts.
Anyway, yeah, just follow me on Twitter. You can DM me there if you're interested in coaching. That's about it.
Cool.
Follow me on Twitter. Al's Liverpool, link should be in the bio. Also, if you want coaching, I just joined Metafy, so did Caleb, and we're pretty affordable compared to some of the other coaches. And I think we have some decent results. So
2 finalists.
Yeah, if you want to check out.
Yeah.
0 champion.
Well.
Okay, I haven't won either. I haven't even made the finals yet, so you got one up on me there.
I'm trying to sell you. I'm trying to hype you guys up. Don't deflate it. Anyway, they've all top cut. Definitely good coaching.
So much earning.
Exactly. And then for me, you can follow me on Twitter at Etchy. Okay, you can follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Etchy. You cannot find me on Metafy. Do not ask me for coaching. And thank you for listening. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.